Question 1. What is OCTGN? Well, to put it simply, OCTGN is a virtual tabletop with integrated player lobby and chat systems that support custom cards and board games. So I'm taking that exactly from the website itself of OCTGN, which is www.octgn.net. And from here, this is where you can effectively download the program itself. So here on the website, you can see this is the front page. To download it, simply go to the download page and you can just hit this for Windows. For the next part, I'll just assume that you have a certain amount of computer literacy already and know how to download and install different programs and apps. So I won't go through that. But what I will point to is the registration for OCTGN. So in this case, it's actually very simple. From the front page, as usual, you can just go up to this link up here, register, click on this, and fill out the form that's here, agreeing to the terms, and hitting register. And that should send an email to your email address, which can then, you just click a link as per the usual way of registering things, and that should activate your account. Now, I think you don't absolutely need to do this, but I would recommend it because it does open up extra functionality within OCTGN itself. Once OCTGN has been installed on your computer and you have registered, this should be the first page you see when you open up the application. So this is OCTGN with the sign in. And of course you can sign in here if you have registered your account, which I'll do for now. But the first thing you'll want to do after that is get to your games manager. So that's the 5th tab. And then you can see there is a list of games here. And you can install whichever ones you are so inclined to play. Now, a word of note, OCTGN does not include the image packs or the game images there. Most of them will be blank white cards with the text on them. You are required to have bought the games yourself. It's kind of an honesty principle here. So with that, you should know what the rules are to the game. This will not explain it to you. It won't show you how to play it. And again, you will be missing the artwork. So you will have to source those yourself from your own catalog of games. All right, that is a pretty much legal requirement, I believe there. So just bear that in mind. You should already own the games, just to reiterate again, and you should have the rule books to hand to understand how to play those. But in saying that, you can simply go to any of the games that you are interested in, and you can see I have probably a few already installed here. But the main ones that I am interested in are Arkham Horror, the card game. And I'm just looking for the others here, but they don't seem to be showing. Wait, there we go. Marvel Champions. That's the big one I'll be doing. And then, of course, the Lord of the Rings card game as well. Right? So once you have those, you just simply hit, I'll take a different one here. You can just hit install. That will install the base game for you. As I've already reiterated, without any art and images and without any of the rule guides. So you will have to know how to play the games. So let's assume that you've already installed the games, you've sourced the images that you're going to be using, or not. Obviously you can play them without them, and you're familiar enough with the game to be able to play it on this platform. What do you do next? How do you start a game? Very simply, we're still in the games manager here, but we want to go to the game lobby. You click on the game lobby, and that will give you these two tabs here, which are essentially the games awaiting players that you can still join, and the games that are that are still in progress, which you can spectate in. All right. Now, to start a game, it is fairly simple. You just go to host game. And you can see these are the 3 that I've installed, and for the point of this video I'm going to start a Marvel Champions game. So you just hit start. This will take a moment to load up. You can see here we go, and the next part will give you this spectator, I suppose you'd call it the waiting room. And if you want to play a single player game, you just hit start and go straight in. But I'd like to highlight here how to do a 2-player game. So you may want to play two-handed, which is difficult enough, but that's beside the point. If you simply want to play two-handed using 2 screens or whatever way you want to do, go back to this page here and you can click join game. So you've effectively opened up 2 windows. This window is the second player. You can see there's just the cancel button here. And the other window, which is here, is the first player. And if you're happy enough with that, obviously you can keep doing it if you want to try for a 4-player game, but that would be fairly difficult to manage. But to each their own. You simply hit start and that'll bring you into the game. So with that, you can see we have 2 windows open and 2 players, and that's how the game is started. So from here, we're in the game. What do you do? Well, the simplest way to, I suppose, begin is you just right-click anywhere on the table and you can look for the welcome screen. There's essentially 2 ways of loading in your decks that you want to play with. The welcome screen is probably the easiest way to do this. So when you right-click, click welcome screen, and you can see here you can load scenarios, fan-made scenarios, pre-built decks, O8Ds, which are the downloadable files from Marvel CDB, those particular websites. You can just put in a URL link from Marvel CDB, and of course some fan-made ones. For the sake of ease, I'm just going to do a very, very simple one here. So in this case, I'm going to load a scenario. I'll go for release order. And once that comes up, I'm going to pick Rhino. Obviously, you can see the ones that are already released. I pretty much own all of these already anyway, so I don't think there's any conflict in that regard. But let's do Rhino. I'll hit select. You can pick which version of standard you want to play. For this one, I'm just going to go with standard one. Which expert set would you like to use? I'm going to go none. And you can choose your own modulars if you like. Which would you like to take on recommended? I'm not even reading this correctly. Excuse me. Would you like to take on recommended modular encounter sets? I'll say yes for now, but obviously if you pick the second choice, then you can choose which ones you want to put in. And with that, that should load up your villain. And if you want your hero, then exactly the same thing. I'd go through the welcome screen. I'm just going to take a pre-build. So in this case, I'm going to take, we'll see when it loads up, Spider-Man, select him, and once that's ready, you can see he's loaded and you get your first 6 cards, or your first however many you should have. How do I like to play from here? Well, basically I just like to zoom in a small bit, but this is to your own preference depending on how much real estate you want on your page. But I do like to leave a little space in here, but this is entirely up to you. You can see here the main scheme is already showing, and then flipping that over, and I should say to flip over you can double click or you can do Control and F. Same is true for your hero cards. Control F. If you double click your hero cards, so they will exhaust. Mostly everything can be accessed through your right click, and you can see here if you click on certain cards, it will give you different options. So if you need to put in different markers, and you can see there are some shortcuts here as well. You will get used to those, but generally speaking, up and down will do your hit points. Right and left will bring in your all-purpose counters, and for these for these special cases here, so same again, up and down will do threat, right and left, same thing, will bring in your all-purpose. And then of course for the other markers, you can use these, you can apply damage, you can use the acceleration token, in this case F4, and that should be fairly straightforward. Generally speaking, if you have cards out, so let's say here you want to, let's say we use backflip to pay for web shooter, you can delete cards from this, from your hand effectively by pressing delete as a shortcut. Obviously you can drag and drop them if you need to as well. You can delete cards from play, simply same thing again, hitting delete, that will get rid of those, and exhausting, so on and so forth. Outside of that, let's get this guy back in. If you need to mulligan, the mulligan is in the right click when you click your hand space down here. And you'll get to learn where the other stuff is. So over here, these orange cards are your nemesis cards. And depending on who you are, if say you have like the likes of Storm, a different one will be open here as well for your other cards, which would be your weather cards. But again, you'll get the feel of those as you play more games. And then on the global round position here, you can see this is where the rest of the villain decks and or special cards would be. So here's the encounter deck, here is the other version of the villain, and outside of that, I think that's pretty much it. There's targeting, which you can just hold control and click, which will give a box to highlight. If you shift click, it gives you this, and if you shift click again, it gets rid of it. And if you shift click and pull, you get an arrow, and then click from the originating position, and that'll delete the arrows. And that's pretty much it. That's how I end up playing anyway in most of my games. And most of the time I do try to use the arrows, but sometimes I do forget, and obviously the targeting, so on. But outside that, that's essentially Octagon. So I hope that's been fairly beneficial for you. And if you have any questions, by all means throw them into the comments below, and I'd be happy to pick them up. But with that, I suppose I'll say all the best, take care, see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.